Hi and welcome. This is Little Wave at Your Stars Within. I'm here with my friend and best astrology student, Samantha.
Glad to be here.
Today we want to talk about an upcoming and important transit for everybody. There's going to be a conjunction happening in the sky of 3 planets: Uranus, the North Node, and Mars. And there's a couple things that are going to happen around that as well. But let's just break that down first. So let's start with some dates. We're going to probably start to feel it around July 20th. So it's coming. It starts to perfect or come into more of an exact conjunction around the 27th, but it's very close. You're going to be feeling this. And first, it's just the Uranian energy and the North Node energy. So what is that? Well, remember that Uranus brings unexpected, right? And surprises, often jolting us like lightning. We really can't say, oh, I think this is going to happen. I promise is not what's going to happen, because it has to be a surprise. Uranian energy, he dances on that line. Am I genius? Am I crazy? Am I genius? Am I crazy? So other people might be like, whoa, that's a crazy idea, or like, I can't believe you're doing that. But when you're filled with the Uranian energy, you just like leap, and you just take these quantum leaps that people might feel are erratic, and they might seem that way, but that's what that energy is asking of you. It's asking us all to take a quantum leap. And the North Node, which is the first conjunction, North Node, do you remember what North Node does?
I don't actually.
That's okay. So North Node is like life path.
Okay.
Right? Especially when we're talking about it in the current movements and the transits. So we're going to have this whoa happen that's going to kind of alter everybody's path. Everybody's going to get like almost like I think of like a chiropractic adjustment, like crack, right? Yeah. We're going to get back on track. Now, this is happening at 18 degrees of Taurus. So how powerful this is going to be for you as a person depends on what you have near 18 degrees of Taurus, right? Give or take 5-7 degrees on either side. Okay. 18 degrees of Taurus, 18 degrees of Scorpio, 18 degrees of Leo, 18 degrees of Aquarius, because those would be your opposites and your squares. So when you look at your chart, if you have anything around that 18 degree of those signs, this is going to be particularly poignant. So it would also tell you that area of life is partly what's going to get shaken up. But don't worry about what gets shaken up, because with the North Node, for me, I feel safe. I'm like, okay, it's getting me back on track. It might be unexpected. It might be a wild ride. It might be a whole lot of things, but it's getting me on path. So I like when the North Node is there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have Mars come along.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Mars joins around the beginning of August, 1st, 2nd of August, okay? So Mars, remember, come on, tell us about Mars, Sam.
Mars is the god of war. It's basically points of tension, not tension, but just like how you handle how stress comes in. I don't know, meets you head first. I'm an Aries, so it can be really like fiery. It's that like spark of fire that just, you start a fire, it goes right up.
Vroom, right?
Yeah, vroom. It can be aggressive sometimes, but very aggressive.
Yeah, it can be aggressive. It can be violent. Yeah. It's definitely like a rev, vroom, vroom, Yeah. And so when Mars is going to come along, it's going to really like take this whole thing and like set it on fire, vroom, right? Yeah. So we might feel agitated or really intense things are happening, and they start, getting, more and more intense to where we can't ignore it. Mars is going to make sure we cannot ignore this transit in our lives, that the things that are happening are going to become escalated in such a way that we have to deal with it, which will ultimately get us on path.
Yeah.
Okay. So we might have some really unexpected events happen. They might not be enjoyable, or they might be stressful. They might be aggressive. That we might just feel the fire within, like, oh my God, I can't take this situation anymore. Yeah. Right. Maybe I've been like trying to deal with something that it's time to move on from. Okay. So the house that this is happening in is also going to be helpful in telling us the area of life that it's happening for you, right? So remember, if it's happening in your 7th house, it's going to have more to do with your relationships. If it's happening in your 10th or your 6th, more to do with work. In our example chart, this is going to be happening in the person's third house. And so, you know, I probably not the best time to take some short trips. You know, maybe if they put something in writing, whether it's social media, or they do, you know, they might say something that could have either a big response, it could blow up, right? Third house, communication. It could also come back as like an attack on them, you know? So there's some different ways that we can think about how that they could have a falling out with a sibling, right? Third house also rules siblings. They could have a falling out with a sibling. Maybe there's been some tension there and it's been needed to come to the surface for a while. And maybe they've been making some decisions for that sibling that's not aligned for their life. And so this is going to get them on path. There's some different ways that this stuff can come out, but just looking at the house can give you information. Of course, if you don't have any planetary bodies happening around any of this stuff, it's definitely less impactful than if it was on your, you know, ascendant, descendant, MCIC line, or with a planet. So, you know, in our example chart, the closest thing we have is the Mars is at 13 Scorpio, so that's oppositing it 5 degrees, but that's going to be the Mars, so probably it would be a pretty intense time period for that person. And then also the Jupiter in the first house at 19 degrees would be squaring it. So making it larger and about the self. So, you know, if this person was, say, a student, they might have a boiling point of realizing I'm in the wrong program. This is wrong for me, right? We've got the Jupiter in their first house. This isn't who I am. I don't care. I've done all these credits. I need to shift to what's right for me. Something like that could come to that boiling point for them. It's just an example, you know, ninth house and third house, teacher-student dynamics. Okay, there's a few other things I want to tell you about what's going to be going on around this time. So, at the same time, Saturn's not far away from this conjunction in a square configuration. So he's at 22 Aquarius. So there's a square of about 4 degrees and he's retrograding. So he is in that direction. So, you know, we've had this Uranian Saturn dance for a while. I posted about it all last year, you know, and they're still dancing really. And that's the old and the new, right? The Uranian genius, progressive, rebellious energy. So we might see in this time an explosion that says, you know, enough with the old structures of Saturn, which we've been seeing for the last couple of years as they've been dancing together. So we might see a little bit of a resurge of that. So whatever structures in our lives have become outdated, this might really get us to shift gears into the new path. You know, what's ready to go. We also, at the same time, in the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, there's a Chiron Venus square that just happens to be happening at the same time. It's not related to this, but I think it's important. And so what that signifies is some wounding around relationships, and in our relationships is being brought up. It is ultimately being brought up for healing, as Chiron does, but it is going to be being brought up. So these things that are getting like activated in our life that feel overwhelming, stressful, unexpected, we're suddenly needing to make a change to get aligned with our life. And at the same time, some of these wounds in relationship are also popping up. And they're popping up for healing, and it's all happening at the same time to really ultimately get us on our path. The last thing I want to tell you, sometimes, so I don't know if you know this, but sometimes I feel like a transit like this could, like a conjunction like this could be going on. And I don't know if I feel it that much, you know? There's all these posts about it on social media, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. But then the moon comes along, because, you know, the moon moves the fastest. And the moon comes along and passes that spot. And that's almost like the turnkey. Oh, okay, I feel it now, you know? So it's actually towards the end, because Mars starts moving on a little bit at this point. I think he's 1 degree away, so it's still there. But, you know, it's towards the end of this conjunction. We're going to have the full moon on August 12th. And we are. Awesome. And that full moon is going to be at a 19 degree activating point. And so it's going to be that 1 degree away, in activation. And so even though that's kind of the end of the conjunction, my sense is that's still going to be quite the turn key, just depending on your chart, right? Like if your chart has things specifically on these planets or on these points, like a planet there, you might feel it as it comes in. And if maybe you have planets where the Venus Chiron's going to be, right, at that like 16 Cancer and Aries, that might be the moment you start to feel it. So, your chart's going to respond to the places that you have specific things there the most. But for all of us, even if you have nothing there, it's still in a house, it's still happening in an area of your life. This moon's going to come along and kind of turnkey and affect. So that's August 12th, and that's sort of towards the end. So we'd say from the end of July through this full moon in mid-August, we're going to be going through some tumultuousness that ultimately leads to our life path. And that full moon being a big activating point. So my best advice for this, with all Uranian energy, our best bet is to accept the unexpected and accept the unknown, to relinquish that control. The more we try, I want this outcome, I want to attach to this, the more we cling, the more we suffer. And that's not always true, actually. There's times where it's a Saturn situation and it's asking us to hold on and do hard work, but not Uranus energy. He's saying, let go, be free, take a leap. I'm bringing you to you can't even imagine what this next dimensional consciousness is going to be. You have to trust me and leap. And so often we refuse to go with it. And so we just end up experiencing Uranian energy as chaotic, overwhelming, more like a bipolar type of energy, instead of actually the genius aha moment that it's meant to be. So we have to leap with him in the directions he's suggesting to really get, the nectar from the experience. So the more we can let go and allow and trust that the outcomes are going to be exactly what they need to be, and that the North Node in Uranus energy, right? Genius life path is the potential, right? Genius life path is the potential. So if I want to bring the highest possible outcome, I need to leap with it and know that even though I can't fathom where it's taking me, it's always going to take me somewhere better, somewhere I'm more fulfilled, more unfolded, somewhere that fits me really well. And if I can trust that and go with it, then I'm going to end up in a really awesome space. But it's still going to be a little rocky getting there. You can't say it's
especially
not.
With that Mars.
Especially with that Mars. It's going to be like, come on, let's go. There's going to be like a quickness to this. Let's go. And this might be a couple week period where suddenly you're like, wow, I'm different, or some choices are different, or some life is different pretty quickly because of that Mars.
Would you say, like, with the Mars energy, to have a little, like, just patience and forgiveness for yourself if you have like outbursts or just like a little bit unexpected? Because I find with like my Aries energy that sometimes I like don't think before I say something, and I like it just comes all out, and then I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't actually mean that, but I'm like, I know that I'm in the right direction, and just like having a little forgiveness for myself and like understanding that it's sometimes a very intense energy.
It's intense. Yeah. It's under pressure, and it's heat, and it's, yes, I think that's a great point, is that we might have an outburst. I think the Mars Uranian energy definitely lends itself to some like, rah! Some jumping out of aggression. It can feel pretty intense inside. And I think the more that you ask the question, what would help me alleviate this tension? Because the what that's going to help to alleviate the tension is the very thing you need to do. That's how it's getting you to the life path. That's how it's getting you to walk there.
Yeah.
I often think of like, okay, if this is the road and I'm just like driving into the wall and I'm going, why does life suck?
Yeah.
Right? Well, the wall's telling me I have to turn in this direction. So we have to use that pressure and that intensity to say, what would help? That must be what I'm needing to do. And somehow that thing's going to lead me to that life path.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely going to, if you have some little like pop out of anger, aggression, negativity, overwhelm, any kind of, I say bipolar in that like sort of mania symptom that I can't sleep, I, if you're having those kind of symptoms, just especially with that full moon, because a lot of times we can't sleep with the full moon, just, being patient with yourself, being as soothing as possible, really trying to create space in that time for you to check in with yourself. And maybe as much as it's hard because of the Mars, you're going to tend to be busy. Trying to not create as much busyness in that time might be helpful.
Yeah, finding those personal practices that can help calm you and put it in your schedule, relaxing, like even if it's 30 minutes, like taking that time to actually pencil it in and just do something that's really nourishing for yourself. Because I definitely feel that energy, and I've noticed bringing in breath work or yoga or eating just a little bit lighter, like fresh fruit. Right now we're in summer pitta season, so just like cooling the body can help like just alleviate some of that quick manic tensions.
And some people might not be able to rest. That Uranian energy can really keep you manic, especially with Mars, and there might be a lot of doing. If this is happening in your 6th house, you might suddenly find that you have so many tasks and things that have to be done right now. So, you might be very activated and resting may not be as easy, but can you dance? Right? Can you get out for a hike and get in nature and just, some people might really need to be moving and have some trouble settling at this time. If the mind is moving a lot, journaling, I'm sure you guys know all the things that help you, but, so just think about how activated this energy is, and it can be used or felt as just like aggressive, everything's chaotic, everything's working out horribly, nothing's going as I expect, and like everything wrong possible is happening, right? Or it could be like experienced more as like, wow, I'm really feeling this intensity and it's driving me to do these things and it's changing me, and I'm going to allow that to happen. And maybe with this knowledge that it's leading to a higher life path will just help you to have the right mindset to come to this energy and get the highest expression of it. So I hope that that's helpful. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, leave them below and we will do our best to answer them. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.